All right, so this is QGIS. One thing about QGIS, as I said, is an open source. As you can see, you actually download the software and then you install it without any issue of cracking. Like you need to crack this, you need to crack that. If it is AutoCAD or possibly an X-ray software, you have to actually crack it. If not, you cannot be able to use it. Okay, so but QGIS is not like that. It's open source. It's developed by a community of developers. Okay, just come together and then they develop it. Even you, if you are a programmer and then you discover that possibly some of the tools that they are using presently here do not function well in terms of your own job I want to do with Qgis, you can actually develop a plugin in line with the Qgis or in line with the GIS, and then you can upload it to their server and then they will approve it for you. Okay, that is one of the things, or one of the important thing about QGIS. Then another thing is actually sustainability. Based on the fact that it's free, is sustainable because maybe if you are using all those licensed software, it's either you are using crack or you say you are buying license, it might not be sustainable because at the point you might not have money to actually buy it, maybe the time that you need it. And then another thing is that if you not buy the license, you cannot collaborate with it. For example, now, if you are using AutoCAD, there are a lot of collaborating platforms, even Microsoft. Okay, there are a lot of collaborating platform that is there where you can share a lot of information with other users. But based on the fact that some of us we use a cracked version of some of those softwares, we cannot be able to collaborate with it because for you to collaborate, you actually need to connect to the internet, and the software or the management did not recognize you as one of their official users. Okay, so that is one of the advantage of using QGIS because it's free and it's open source. So as you can see, this is QGIS. Okay, this is the interface of QGIS. This is where you work. This is your interface where you work. This is the layer panel. The layer here, and then we have your browser information here. The browser is where you add your data and all your data that you need, you can add it here. And then those data that you add, you can be able to see them here on the layer. Okay, and at the same time, you can reduce this layer so that your screen can be, increase in terms of size. We can also reduce this. Okay, so these are different approach where you can actually configure your interface in terms of working. This is the first thing we have here is your project. We have new, where you click and then you open a new page, like normally in any other software that you use, it's just the same approach. You can still have the same new here. You can see we have the icon here. You can use it. And then we have new from templates. Let's assume you have started using and then you have a particular template that you want to work on. You use your template. Okay. Then we have open from Postgres and then open from Joe package. These are different external database. I just made mention of we can use an external database. That's when you go into advanced GIS, okay? But this time around, we are going to use the database that is inbuilt to this particular software. So we don't need external database. Then open recent work. You can open a recent work that you have done, maybe the one that you have done and you saved. You can open it. And then this open is to open anyone that you have done before, and then you can open it as well. We have save, and then we have save as. I just talk about saving your project as, or your layer as, to a different format, okay? Then we have save to. That is to say you have a particular template you are saving it to, or you have a particular database that you are saving it to. So anytime you see Postgres, SQL, or anytime you see anything like Postgres or your package in QGIS, it's talking about database. Okay, so take note of that. Then we have the property. Okay, this property section now, you just click on it now. This is the property section and comes with a lot of formats, a lot of informations that you want to possibly adjust. Okay. Now you look at here, we have general, where we talk about the general information, maybe selection color, the background color. You see that the background color of your QGIS is white. You can decide to change it to any other color that you want. Okay. But you can leave it that background color, but on your own, you can actually play around with it. Then we have the measurement. We are using WGS 84. I talked about WGS yesterday, right? World Geodetic System. That's the World Coordinate System. I talked about it yesterday. So there are different settings that you need to be done here, but I actually advise you just leave this place. You don't actually need to set anything because there's no need of changing your background from white, except if you want to use black or any other format that. But mostly we use white. So I advise you leave it like this to avoid confusion. Metadata has to do with information about that particular project that you want to do, or information about yourself. Okay, a parent identifier. So all these things you feel like the author goes on, that is my name, based on it, pick it from the system because the system is signing with my name. So possibly if your system is signing with your name, when you come to this place, you see your name. But all these things are actually not important. You can leave it as a default. Then we go to CRS. This is CRS, which is Coordinate Reference System, which I've been emphasizing on yesterday. Okay, so now on the Coordinate Reference System, you see that we have MENA UTME 31. This is here because I actually work on a project in Lagos. And then we have MENA UTME 32, which is Kaduna. Okay, so now, as I said yesterday, you can search the internet and know the projected coordinate system that actually fall within your state. It's either UTME MENA 32, 33, you understand, 34, you understand, depend on your state. Okay, then we have the World Geodetic System, which is WGS 84, which, as I said, if even if you are not using any of these projected, you can actually use your WGS, which your data can still fall at the same place, at the same locations. Okay, so I will now use WGS for this training. We are going to use WGS so that we'll not go and use any format, because if I start using MENA 32 now, you tend to use MENA in that place, and then the whole thing will just do not work well, and it will bring confusions to us. So all of us will be using WGS 84 for this training, based on the fact that we find ourselves in a different location, so that we can easily follow the step. So I'll use WGS. So this is what you select on your CRS, okay? And then you click OK. Now the other information here, they are actually default information. You don't actually need to change anything here, okay, for now, except if you are going into advanced QGIS, advanced GIS, that's when you can go. So the main thing, the main place that you actually need to change is your CRS, okay? So the first thing you do, as I said, I'm going to repeat it again. I go to my project, okay, and then I click on property, and then I select WGS, and then I click OK. Okay, so from this project here, this is just what I did. And then here is edit. You see that we don't have any data here, so we cannot be able to edit. But what you see here, you have cut feature, copy and paste, like the normal copy and paste you know. And then we have add polygon, add cycler, string. All those informations we are going to use it when we add data to our environment. Okay, so now I'll just leave the edit. Then we talk about view. We have different views in GIS. Okay, we have the new map view, we have the new 3D map view, we have palm map, we have a palm map selections. Like now, for example, we are in this particular view now where we load all our information. But if you want to produce your map now, that is to say we want to bring out the output now, you actually need to use a different view, okay? Which at the course of this training, we are going to follow that. I was just trying to explain the overview of the entire workspace, okay? Now we talk about the layer. Now, if you look at this layer, now we have create. Okay, we have create layer and then we have add layer. Now from our profile or our project, we have where we say open a project, right? Then look at the create layer. Now we have new package layer and then we have new shapefile. New package, I just mentioned that okay, anytime you see a package in QGIS or in GIS, it's actually talking about database. This package now is actually a database that comes with a system. So you can create a new database for yourself. And the difference between a database and a shapefile is that the database, any file that is a database comprises point, polygon, and line. You can add two of them together. But when you are using a shapefile cannot combine two. Your shapefile can either be a line or point or polygon. Just note this. Your package, you can be able to combine both line and polygon inside one file. But your shapefile can only carry one, okay? Either point, polygon, or line. Then we have new spatial light. Spatial light now is also comes with one, that is either point, line, and polygon. But the difference between spatial light and shapefile is that two people can be able to work at the same time under the same file. You agree with me that when you open, possibly like AutoCAD now, if you open it in your system, possibly people are sharing a particular network. Okay, like in our office, we have a folder where we can share information. So everybody have access to that information. So whether you are in town planning unit, you are in valuation unit, or any unit you can actually have access to that particular folder. So at that point, 2 or 3 people can be working on one particular file. But if you use a direct shape file, if you open it now, they will tell you that this particular file is being opened by somebody. Let's assume you open a Microsoft now, it tell you that this Microsoft is open by somebody already, so you cannot be able to work on it. But when you use a new spatial light, if 2 of you can, 3 or 4 or even more people can actually work on that file. So what it means now is that if you are picking a point of maybe different facilities all over the world where you have your site, and then other people can still be picking and then will be saving, and the whole data will be entering that the same locations. Then we have new scratch layer. New scratch layer has to do with, for example, if I'm using a shapefile, I have to save it to a particular folder where we talk about organization of your folder, right? Where I just make mention of that, okay? But if you are using a new scratch layer, then you don't actually need to save it. You just create a temporary layer. That is when a new temporary scratch layer, just create a temporary layer. Then we talk about new virtual layer. That is to say an online layer that you just create. And then we have create new GPS layer. So these are different formats. We are going to make use of each of them as we continue. And then we add those layers. This one, we just create them. You can now add vector layer, which comprises of all those other things I just mentioned earlier. And then we have add raster, we have add mesh layer, add delimited text layer. This is the one that you use to add your CSV file. And then we add Postgres, these are database. And all these are database, okay? And then we have the add WCS, which is online. You can add the data from online. All those things, we are going to practice them as we continue. Okay, then we have our settings, which you can customize your projection as well, which has to do with what we just selected. We just select from our CRS, so we have selected that, so you don't need to actually anything. Then we talk about plugin. I mention of plugins that QGIS comes with a lot of plugins. So you see, you can manage and install plugin. So, and one thing, before you use your plugin, you have to connect to the internet. So if I click on manage and install plugin now, it will load, okay? So as far as you connect to internet, it will actually bring out many other plugins that you can actually access. And then how you can install it now is that if you see any plugins that you want, you can just click on it and then install it. So now, as you can see, we have different plugins. We have azimuth and distance calculator, GPS geocoding, GPS tools, map flow, OB3D map viewer. Like this OB3D map viewer is a 3D view camera. There's a project we do in collaboration with Kasuda, as I mentioned yesterday. There's a camera that moves through Kaduna. That is, it is mounted on the camera. I call it Trimble. It is, the camera is produced by Trimble Corporation. That is a company called Trimble. If you are, maybe you are into software, you actually know Trimble because they produce a lot of software, lot of devices like that. Okay. So now it's produced by Trimble. So we move around Kaduna and then take a snapshot 360. Okay. So as a vehicle pass through a road, it automatically catch the whole place. You understand? Normally, that is what we presently use for valuation unit, whereby we will do what they call point-based assessment. Okay, so there are a lot of things involved in using GIS for construction. We cannot be able to cover everything, but as I'm pointing it out like this, you can actually write down and then try to make research on it, and then see if there's any challenge in any of them. If you want more information about any of them, you can clearly ask questions, and then anyone that I have a clue about it, you can actually ask. Okay, because this point-based assessment is actually, it's a World Bank project. The World Bank is actually trying to make sure that every organization, every state will actually use that technology to make valuation of properties easy for people, because World Bank, they are actually interested in data, okay, of possibly the land titling data in Nigeria, okay. So they're actually trying to make sure that we use some of those technology to make the work easy for us. And Kaduna is actually one of the center where we actually implement some of those things. Now we have QAD. QAD is also a plugin. This QAD, I call it Quantum Aid Design. You know that AutoCAD is called computer aided design, right? So now it's also like, it comes with AutoCAD tools. For example, you can see offset. If you install your QAD now, you can see offset. You can see offset. Every feature that you have in AutoCAD, you can see most of them here. So you can do your AutoCAD drawing, although it will not be as flexible as AutoCAD in terms of using Qgis for that. Then we have field synchronization. I will not be able to explain the whole plugin. So you go there. If you click on any of the plugin, it will give you information about that plugin. Okay. And then you see install. It's because it's already installed in my system. That's why you write reinstall or uninstall. So if you not install it, you see install. So what you need to only just click on it and it will be installed in your system and you start using it. So you can read more information about them. Okay. We have Qgis to web. For example, you can produce your map and then send it to a web so that anybody can actually view it. That's what we call web map. You can produce a web map. This is a plugin for it. So there are many things that you can actually do with QGIS. All this plugin does not come with QGIS. Like, you do not, as you install your QGIS now, you will not see them there until you install them, because you just based on what you want. You cannot install everything. These are a few the software, okay? But when you connect to the internet and then you wait for it to load, everything will actually show, because I actually stop it from loading, because if I'm waiting for it to load, it will take time, because it's actually a lot of plugins inside, okay? So that is about plugin. And we have vector, which our main mission of vector. These are some of the processes that we are going to do with, or analysis we are going to do. So you want to do analysis in vector files, you can make use of some of those things here. Vector, we have, for example, now we have buffer, we have clip. Yesterday I talked about buffer when I was making mention of offsetting rule to know the number of casualty or the number of building or property that your road construction will be affected. The same thing when you are doing a drainage, or when you are doing possibly you are running electric grid from one state to another, you actually need to do all those analysis, okay? Then there are many other analyses which we are going to go through them, okay? And then we have raster. You know, I made mention of georeferencing our data, right? So we have a georeference, we have raster calculator here. And then we have our web, and then we have mesh, we have processing tools, we have help. Now this processing tool is what is showing here by my right. So I can search for any information that I want. Possibly if I want to buffer now, I can just search. If I don't know the location where the buffer tools is located, I can just search for buffer here, BUF. Okay, so you see that it show you the buffer. So instead of you go through maybe raster, vector, and then be looking for it, possibly you might not know that it's located inside this vector, right? So you can just search for it. So there are a lot of expressions or processing that you can actually search through this processing tools. That is the use of it. Okay. So I hope we are all flowing together. Yesterday we export a KMZ file, right? Okay. So I want us to bring those data to this environment. I'll bring those data to environments. And how do we do that? I says that when you are bringing in your layer now, for example, I click on this layer. Okay, now I'm not creating layer this time around because we have it already there, which is the one that we export. Now, tomorrow, the next class, that's when we are going to create layers one by one. We are going to create vector. Sorry, we are going to create line, point, and polygon one by one. But at this point now, we are going to add layer. That is the one that we already have. Now, this time around, we are not adding a raster. We are adding a vector. Okay. So now I'll bring in one KML file that I've downloaded. So I'll click on add vector here. Okay, so now you see we have a vector here. If you click on raster, then you are bringing in raster layer. But I want a vector layer. Then you click on this. That is under the source now. Under the source, I'll click on this button here. I'll browse to the location where I keep that my KML. If you remember when you download your KML, it will go into your download folder. So I'll go to my download. Okay, and then I'll look for any KML folder. So I have one KML folder which I call emo state. Okay, I just call it emo state. So depending on what you saved that your project as you did that particular practice yesterday. So I'll click on my KML. Make sure that your file type is all. Make sure that it's all. If not, you will not see the KML. Possibly if you click on this file, you have a lot of file format here. If I put it on X-ray shapefile, now you see X-ray shapefile. So if it is on X-ray shapefile, there's no way I'll see KML again. I only see a particular file, which is point.project.shapefile, which I have in my download. Okay, that's why it's showing here. So it can only show you file that are the shapefile. For example, I have this grid.shp. But if you want to load your KML, make sure you put it on all so that you can be able to see both shapefile and KML, any format that you see, even your AutoCAD, your DWG, you can actually bring it in. So I'll click on Emo, and then I'll click Open, and then I click Add. Then what we want is the polygon. We don't need a point, so just click on Polygon, because based on what we did yesterday, we exported a polygon. So I'll click OK. So I can now close here. I click Add, and then I click OK, and then I close here. So you see, we have this emo file here. So it's not showing, so I can click on zoom to layer. Okay, because it depends on the position I was when I load that particular layer to my system. So if you load any layer, for example, now I just zoom it now, I'm no longer seeing it again. So I load it, I'm not seeing it. For me to bring it in, I'll just click on the layer that is on my layer panel here. I'll right click and then zoom to layer. Okay, so now you now have your boundary here. So yesterday you digitized a lot of boundaries of a particular plot of land. You can do the same by bringing it in to your GIS environment, because this is where you can actually do real work on. You cannot actually do a lot of work in that ArcGIS that we use Google Earth that we used yesterday. Okay, so I'll bring it in here. Now, you can play around with this particular layer. For example, I'll bring in a vector. Okay, sorry, I'll bring in a raster so that we see if this particular information or this particular polygon is actually located in the right position. So for me to bring in a vector now, if I go to my browser here, I will have as far as you are using QGIS 3 point something above, you are going to have under your XLZ type, you are going to have your Google map, and then you are going to have your street map. In case you do not see it, I'll share a video for you. If in case you do not, your own did not come like that, I'll share a video for you on how you can be able to add it to your QGIS. But as far as you're using QGIS 3 point something above, it has to come with it. So I'm having Google Map here, right? This is not the Google Earth. Yesterday we used Google Earth. So I'm adding a Google Map, which is the link of the Google Map. So that is to say you have to connect to the internet. So I'll click here on the SY side and drag. Please, Mr. Is it can you off your, can you mute yourself, please, so that you not distract us, please? Please. Okay, so now, so I've added this, so as you can see, we have it here now. But I discovered that I'm not seeing my polygon again, right? That my boundary, I'm not seeing it again. So I'll go back to my layer. I added that through browser. I'll go back to my layer, and then you see we have those information here. Now, the reason why I'm not seeing it is because this Google map is on top of this layer. On your eye, on your own, now you are seeing it, right? It's on top. So what I'll do is that I'll click on it, the Google map, click and hold it down and drag it down. Let it come under it. I said yesterday that GIS layers comes with layers by layer. You overlay them, you understand, on top of each other. Okay. So now this IMO has to be on the world. That is when you can be able to see it. Right? Because if you put the whole world on top of a particular plot in Imo State, you cannot be able to see it. Okay, so that is that. So now I'm seeing it now. So if I want to see, to confirm if the location is okay, I'll click here, this button here, to off it. You see that it's marked here. If I click on it now, it will off. So you see the area. Okay, you see that it follows a particular settlement of a particular village, okay, in Imo State. All right, so you see, in fact, this place is, I forgot the name because I used it to do a particular job for somewhere. Is Iswago or Impala, something like that, this particular village, you understand? So now for you to see information about this place again, you click, because we talk about attribute, right? I told you that I'm going to explain what the attribute is all about. Attribute now, for example, now I have this particular layer. If I want to know information, for example, the size of this plot or the location of this plot, what is the name of this plot, what is the name of the owner of this plot. Now, these are the attributes. Now, all this attribute information, you are the one to add it. Now, this is the good thing about GIS, because it gives you room to add enough information to your data. Okay, so now I'll have this. If I right click on this Imo State layer, that is Imo, this particular layer, Imo State, and then I'll click open attribute information. I'll click on it and then it open it. So now this is the table, this is the attribute table of that plot that I load. Okay, now this is why, because now I'm doing this webinar, I'm using only one screen. Possibly you are doing GIS, possibly you have two screens. Possibly you see that you have a desk monitor somewhere, so that when you open something like this, you can actually drag it and put, and then you'll be seeing it, so that you can see a link between your file itself and then the attribute information. Okay, please, they just give a warning of the next 40 minutes, but I'm going to continue. And then if it's log us out, then we join in the next 5 minutes. So I don't want to shorten this particular section again. If you log out, then we come back in the next 5 minutes, because they just show us a warning now about it. So now this is the attribute information. Okay, as I said. So I'll go back to my QGIS again. Now, let me just explain a few things about this attribute. For example, this is the name. This is the name, okay? And then this is the description. Now, these are different information which I did not actually add it. Okay, but on your own, you actually need to fill all those information. For example, if you digitize a particular plot of land, what you did yesterday, you can now add the name, maybe the location of the plot, the size of the plot, the name of the owner. You understand? Possibly you can actually interlink it with your MS project if you are into project management. Okay, you can interlink it so that you can have your schedule, possibly your program of work attached to this. Now, this is a good thing about GIS or GIS format or GIS platform, because it gives you room for all those kind of things. And then possibly you are into estate management, you can at the same time link pictures of your building of that particular estate. Now, normally in our office here in Kaduna, in Car Social Technology, we market properties, estate properties. But what we do, we don't actually need to go to the site. If you want to know information about that property, what we need is just a click. And then we have our big screen where it display everything that has to do with that property. So you don't actually, for you to take your decision on that property, you don't actually need to take our time to go to the site or just for you to look at the place. We have all the information. We can show you from the satellite image, and at the same time, we have all the pictures attached to every stage, every room. So if you can now have the design of the floor plan of that particular structure, and then what we need to do is just to use a click. Okay, let me just, I will go back to I'll go back to my the Qgis this is so that I can share that, so that I can explain that now. Stop sharing.